Welcome to Fox 8 Extra. I'm Stefani Schaefer. It is Mother's Day weekend, so we're dedicating this entire show to moms. In fact, Abraham Lincoln said, "All that I am or hope to be, I owe to my angel mother." And it is so true in most cases. Our mothers really do shape us into who we are and what we've become. And that is especially true for the woman that I'm about to introduce to you. This is my angel, my mom, Patti Schaefer. It's so great to have you here,
Thank you for
Mom.
having me.
Well, Carrie and I had talked about that this would be fun for Mother's Day to have you here. And we also have some wonderful advice from another expert coming up after this short break. But Mom, you know I'm so proud of you, and I love you so much. And I used to always say,
That's how I am with you.
well, we are so
Blessed.
lucky and blessed. Yeah. But I've always said if I could be half the mom that you were, that I would be a great mom. And
Thank you.
because you're just the best, and I'm so grateful for our relationship. Except Carrie, now I'm going to sit here and cry for 30 minutes.
No, you can't cry. No crying.
So I want to just thank you for always being such an incredible mom to me, my brother, and then what's even more amazing is my mom had 2 kids, and then that grew into 5 more because we took on 5 foster daughters who lived with us too, and they still call you Mom.
Yeah. I'm still involved with all of them, with their children.
Yeah.
Grandma.
Yeah, and they were all situations that were unfortunate situations for them, that they needed a place to live, and all of them were in different
Stories.
Yeah,
They all have
different stories of tragedy in their lives, and you know, that was amazing that you took all those girls on too.
I do have to say this, though. You were very easy to raise.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But you know what? I think the biggest thing, and I think that like with any mother and daughter, is there's going to be times that's tough, and especially
It's a little testy. Yeah.
yeah,
sometimes it's testy.
as young girls or young boys are navigating their lives and pressures and stuff. But I never felt like I ever wanted anyone to get in between our relationship, and I knew you always had my back, and I always tell my kids that too. Like, no one loves you more than a mother, and you know, you would take bullets for your kids, and you
for sure.
really have their best interests at heart. And even though we had talks, and there were times I'm sure I disappointed you, that you know I knew when you were telling me and that you were trying to help me.
Yeah.
And that's important too. That you can't always just be
But
best
you had that
friends.
wisdom, which was good.
I listened. I remember I was 13, and I was like, "You're always right." Like, 'cause you know, kids, you try and test them and say,
Yeah.
"No, I know what's best for me," and I know. And then I remember I went at 13. I remember going, "I give up. I'm just going to listen to you for everything because you're always right." I mean,
You
you really.
basically did. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I was always so proud of you too, and I always said like I was never the kid at the mall that would walk 10 steps behind you, because I'd walk next to you like, "That's my mom." I'm so proud of her. But to hear, so she had a great career, grew up in Alliance, Ohio, and your parents, tell them what they did with very glamorous job.
My father was a taxi cab driver initially and ended up buying one taxi cab after another, and he owned the taxi cab. So he started out doing that, and I actually drove cab before I went to New York. When they'd get busy, I'd jump in a cab and help them. I had a chauffeur's license.
It was not glamorous, and that's why I said that, not a glamorous life, but it was the environment that you grew up with, and what your dad went to school like to 8th grade or something, and then
because his father passed early, and he had to get in there and help support the family. He was very ambitious.
Yeah,
very
and then
ambitious.
you were too. That is still a lot. And then you drove a taxi cab. That was even your car in
an
high
old
school.
beat-up taxi cab. Yeah. It was fun.
Because
I could pile everyone in, all my friends in, and we could go over curbs and just whatever. You couldn't hurt it.
so then you moved to New York City.
Yes.
And I had a great career there.
Yes.
And she was a model with Wilhelmina and Ford modeling agencies.
And did a lot of TV commercials. So I Did TV too.
Yes, yes. And then you married your
Hometown sweetheart. Yeah.
my father. And then what I always thought was amazing is you had a great career in New York, but you never felt like you wanted to raise kids and a family in New York. So
No,
then you
exactly.
came back to Alliance.
Right, right. And then I started a business in my home. We had the entire downstairs to our home was our business. We had a waiting area, a bathroom, and a teaching area.
Where she would teach modeling and performing arts. It ended up growing into that. And then there were some times, though, that you would wish that you did not have the business in the home, because my brother and I would be upstairs doing our musical instruments, performing or arguing, or one time we used to take the record jackets and slide down the stairs like it was and you'd come upstairs and you'd go, "You guys, be quiet. I am trying to teach down there." And then you'd come down all nice. "Hi, ladies. Anyway, let's do this." The trials and tribulations. But
having a home-based business. A home-based business can be challenging sometimes.
But what was great for us is that
Yeah.
we were never with babysitters, because you
no.
were always
Yeah,
home, and that
exactly.
was important. I think you were a wonderful role model for me to say you had a great career, and
Yeah.
then you had brought all of the stuff that you had learned in New York City and stuff to teach thousands of
Yeah, I had a lot of young girls.
yes,
And I'm still in contact with a lot of them. That's what's nice about Facebook.
and generations. You've taught like 3 generations
Yeah.
now of girls with even etiquette, modeling,
Exactly.
and all that stuff. And so I think I used to look and say, wow, you have a great career. You paid the bills, like you handled all
yeah.
of that, and then yet you still were home with us, and that was
It
a
all
blessing.
worked out.
And that's why I've always worked my work schedule, God willing, and my great bosses who have understood, like, I don't want to work nights because I want to be able to be home with my kids to pick them up from school. I never
That's
missed
important.
a baseball game or
Yeah.
dance recital or any of that,
Yeah.
because then I was running them around. So I think that has taught me a lot too. Not only were you an amazing mom, but you were able to steer, still working because you were supporting our family. 100% we needed you to work to support us. But you were able to do it in a way that didn't take time,
Didn't take
away, from
time
us,
away from the
and showed
family,
that
yeah.
we were still your priority.
Yeah.
And that was a great blessing. Not everyone can do that. That was important to you.
But we had a garage in our home, and we forgot about the garage
Yeah.
and took the doors out, and then that was our teaching room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're so great. I'm so thankful that you're in my kids' lives too, because then once I started having kids and still working here at Channel 8, she would drive up from Alliance every week, and you and my mother-in-law would trade off days and watch the kids, and she'd sleep over. Nana P got to sleep over every week and be with my kids, which I love that you had a big part and a big hand.
I loved it. I mean, I really did. It's
Actually, who drove you here to Fox 8
my
today?
grandson, Grace.
And they had a little brunch date.
Yeah.
Last week too, and
We have a wonderful relationship. I
Yeah.
think we bonded just through the years, and that's what it's all about.
I know I'm so lucky that you're doing so great and you're still here with us, and you know, you have to look at, I treasure that. I don't know what I'd do without you. I mean, you know that. We talk several times a day, and
Every day.
I'm just so lucky that I have you.
And that's how I feel. You're keeping me healthy
Good.
and young.
Good. Well, I think you're keeping me young. I always say, like, oh, she has no wrinkles. What is up? Dove soap and Lubriderm lotion.
Yeah, right. All the inexpensive things.
Well, you're such a blessing to me and to
Thank you.
Race and Sienna, and I'm so grateful for you.
Love you.
I
Mwah.
love you more. You know, like any relationship, obviously a mother's connection with her kids is forever a work in progress, as we all know. And we do have someone here to help if this seems like maybe you want to reach out to your mom, or it's something that you feel like your relationship needs a little work. It's so normal. And we're going to explain a little bit more, so please don't go away. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Fox 8 Extra. Well, she is your first friend, the first person you ever meet and your forever friend. But not everyone has the greatest relationship with their mother, and that's the topic of today's show on this Mother's Day weekend. And joining me once again is my own mom, Patti Schaefer, and also Tierra Banks from Mended Relationships, LLC. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, we've been talking with my mom, and I always say I'm so lucky and blessed, and I know that because I have a lot of friends and I know a lot of people that don't necessarily have a great relationship with their mom, or it is just the way it is. And you have this wonderful outlook on things, and also you've had a relationship with your mom that needed some repair, and now you have an organization, tell us about it, that you've created to help other people mend their relationships with their moms.
Yeah, so Mended Relationships definitely is a labor of love. Definitely came from my own experience with my mom. When I was a teen, of course, we started to experience that teen mother things, and we didn't recover as quickly as, of course, we would have liked to. So the earlier years of me being a mom and me being a wife and, you know, starting out my adulthood, like we weren't as connected. So those times were hard for me. And I remember at a time where my husband had became injured when I had two small little kids. And I remember just sitting there thinking after the doctor, you know how the doctor will tell you, like, it's going to be some time for him to recover. And I had a kid in a carrier and a 2-year-old. And I just remember feeling at that time, like, this is usually when a girl will call her mom and say, like, Mom, I need you to come and move in.
Yes, and that's basically, that's what happened when my husband had his accident.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, you were right there.
That's
Yes.
what happened.
Yeah, and I didn't really have that opportunity. I think it was then that I realized, like, wow, we really aren't close enough because I didn't feel comfortable. So I can't even say if my mom would have done it or not. I just knew that I didn't feel as comfortable to even ask her. So, you know, that's when it hit me, like, I need to work on this relationship.
So how did you reach out?
So I didn't necessarily reach out to Mom first. I think his injury was the onset of a whole bunch of problems for us, but then I started to experience depression just because it was, you know, at this time in our life, like we were young, our kids were young, and it changed everything. So I started to see a therapist. I started to talk to my pastor, the moms in my church. Like, so I just really started to tap into my community and really piece myself back together, honestly. And once I started to do the inner work, it was then that, you know, in our work we call it mother wounds, but it was then that those mother wounds were exposed to me. So I started to heal from those things, and then I started to initiate those hard conversations with my mom.
Because it's hard, because
Absolutely.
everyone feels, and in a relationship that goes bad, you talk to anyone on either side, and they're both going to have different stories. And
Absolutely.
it's easy to feel scarred and scorned.
Absolutely.
And then you don't know how, right, so then how did you approach that? Like, what was that like?
It was,
And how long had you gone without maybe talking with your mom?
so it was different. For my mother and I, we only didn't talk for maybe a few months at a time where we were absolutely no contact. That probably was the height of our conflict. But for the most part, we always had a relationship. We were just kind of, you know, existing. Like, you know, my mother she is a powerful woman. You know, I was thinking about when you were talking to your mama about what she did. So she was always there with me. There was never a time where she didn't raise me or we weren't around each other. But it was just that when life hit us both, we separated. Like, we didn't come together, you know, like I didn't feel comfortable enough to go to my mother with those hard situations in life. So after I started to work on myself is when I became interested in cultivating an authentic relationship. Like, I really need you. You know, like I want to have a real relationship. Like, I don't, you know, because so many people, like, they'll be in the same space with one another all of their lives and you don't know each other. You know, you don't come to each other in times of struggle. You know, like, it's easy to be there for those superficial moments, holidays, show up for photos.
Did you actually say to her, I need you?
Yeah, so once I started to heal, I realized I had that right. I realized that I could go and say, I remember some of those earlier days, like going to my mom's house and saying, Mom, I need to talk to you. And you know, can you tell me why? You know, I got
Yeah.
curious because with the advice of my therapist and the help, they just said, like, become curious, like, get to know her as a woman, you know, like, you know, inquire
Because
about her
nothing's
story.
bonded you more than the fact that she gave you life. And
Absolutely.
that you are still a part of her.
Absolutely. And I'm so similar to my mother.
Yeah.
Like, now we can laugh about it. You know, when you go through the tough times, you don't want to be anything like her, but like, I am so
true, yeah.
similar to her. Like, I feel, we laugh now because she said, you just know me so well. I'm like, I know you because, like,
I am you.
Yeah, like, yeah.
And you know, that could be a reason too why there are a lot of moms and daughters that don't get along because you're so similar, and that might maybe make you clash.
Yeah, sometimes, definitely sometimes. I do think that people lean more into that more often than it for it to be true, because most times, like, mothers and daughters are arguing just about the outside circumstances, like the world we live in, the society, the religions, like, those things will have a mom and daughter clashing because of the perceived roles that, you know, the expectations that are on women. So then you have these two women in the house, like, just kind of fighting for their voice, fighting for their independence. You know, like, they're fighting,
heard.
absolutely
Everyone
wanting
wants
to
to
be
be
heard,
heard.
but then also still kind of being forced to walk in that self-sacrificial role. So then it just, you know, it begins to make you clash. Like, as a young girl, you know, you see your mom, like, you see her, you know, sacrificing her life, and you think that that's the way, you know, you should do it. But then sometimes you're like, I don't want to do it that way.
Yeah.
And then for the mother, it could feel like you're butting up against what she's, you know, saying, or, you know, it could seem critical of her example. But it's like, no, I'm just trying to find my own way. So really, like, often what I find is those are the things that really have moms and daughters fighting each other more than us just being two women, you know, or us just being similar. It's just like, I know I always say, and I don't know if we're gonna get to this, but I always say, like, we are not each other's enemies. We really aren't, you know, but I think that society kind of makes it feel like we are. Like, a daughter is,
Pulling you apart.
a daughter is being raised in the house, and like, no, here's another woman, and you have to prove your womanhood, and I'm the head woman, and but we aren't each other's enemies.
To work together through this journey.
Absolutely.
When you were looking to enhance that relationship with your mom, reconnect, was your mom wanting that same thing too?
Yes, my mother always said she wanted it. Like, my mother never rejected my desire to, you know, go deeper with her, but it was foreign to us. You know, in our family, most mothers and daughters had tumultuous relationships. We really didn't see what healthy relationships look like. So we both wanted it, but we were just like, how do we get there?
Right.
Like, you know, how, because sometimes, like, love is enough to keep you connected, but love isn't always enough to, like, make you close, you know, like, because all those other barriers. My mother actually was a motherless daughter. Like, my grandmother was actually murdered when my mother was only 4.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you. But my mother grew up without a mom, and I didn't realize that.
She didn't have.
So maybe she was scarred in so many ways too.
absolutely.
And you had
my
a
grandmother
bad
Really?
relationship with your mom though too. Your mom was tough, and I think you became the mother in spite of what you had.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I never. I learned from her mistakes.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I would always think, I don't want to do this
Yeah.
or do that that way again. You know, the pain I received, I didn't want to.
Absolutely.
I tried
and I
to
think
break
that's
that
the thing
cycle.
too,
It's
and that's
breaking
what
the
like the
cycle.
cycle breakers
Absolutely.
is
Yes.
exactly what you
That's
said. You didn't
exactly
want
the
to
same
be in
type
that
of
same
thing when you're
cycle.
doing such a great
Absolutely.
thing.
And I think that's the natural progression of things. Like,
Yeah.
even with my own daughter, I tell her all the time, like, there are going to be things about my motherhood that you don't agree with, and you're going to fix it. Like, you're going to improve it. And I think that that's just, like, the generational responsibility. Like, so, you know, one of the responsibilities I feel like I have to the community is not to really shun what you had or where you came from, you know, but it's really to just embrace it and then build on the system. Don't try to tear it completely down, because we
Right.
can't do it within a lifetime. If I try to completely tear down everything that my mom gave me just to build something new to give my daughter, I will waste our lifetime. But if
Yeah.
I can actually see, you know, what she's given me as a gift and then build on that and then hand it to my daughter and expect her to build on that without taking criticism or, taking it personally, the things that my daughter want to change. Just yesterday, my daughter said, when I become a mom, we're going to eat more fresh food.
Yes, I think I've heard that too. I'll be cooking more for my kids. Like, sorry,
I was like, that sounds beautiful.
Yes,
I'm
you
sure
do
your
that.
children would appreciate that. But I can't do everything,
Yes.
and I'm not gonna shame myself.
Right.
True.
Because that's what I believe, that's what society would have us to, just try to race to fix everything.
Right.
But I want to embrace this imperfection, in front of my daughter, to let her know there are going to be things that you're not going to be perfect in. Your children are going to improve, and that's just what it's supposed to be.
100%. I love these three things: reconcile, repair, and rebuild,
Yes.
which are just three easy words, but they are so fruitful in what they're saying. And these are ways that you say are the 5 ways that you can improve your relationship. And whether it's mother-daughter,
Yes.
or if it's father-son. I
Absolutely.
mean, really, this reaches out to best friends. This
Absolutely.
reaches out to
Relationships.
anyone, right?
Yes.
Relationships. But you say, accept your healing isn't her responsibility.
Absolutely.
And that was big for you, I guess. You said talking to, when they say it takes a village, you were talking to your friends at church and a therapist, and you
Yes.
started learning all of those tools, and that helped you then approach her and to say,
Absolutely.
like, okay, we need to reconcile or rebuild.
Yeah. And I didn't want to blame.
receptive, though, when you first approached her?
Well, not at first, right?
Oh.
Because you met with resistance.
Okay.
Any change is going to be met with some resistance. But like I said, my mother has always encouraged me, like, to do what I feel is best, so she knew that this was something that I wanted to pursue. And then with the accepting, I had to accept my healing as my responsibility and not her own, because then that removes this desire to blame her. Like in so many women I see, like, our mothers weren't perfect. We don't have to blame them. We don't have to say, you're the reason I'm not this way. It's like, so yeah, this was our experience that we had while I was young. But just seeing her as a woman, I know now, like, I have to heal from what we experience. It's my responsibility. It's not her responsibility to fix me.
And that's a lot, owning it.
Absolutely.
And taking the responsibility
Absolutely.
and saying too. And
Absolutely.
realize she's not the enemy,
She
which
is
you
not
did
the
say.
enemy.
Yeah.
She is not the enemy.
And also bury the ideal, embrace the actual. Because I think we do.
Yes.
We watch social media
Yes.
now. We used to
Yeah.
watch the shows on TV and say, well, my house isn't like this. But
Absolutely.
really, no one's house is really like that stuff that's
No.
on TV. It's
No.
on TV. It's glamorizing it. So
Yeah. And there's a quote that says, things have always been the way they are. We suffer because we imagine them differently. So it's like just embracing what you have, like the actual of what you have, and burying that picture in your mind, because that picture that we're holding on to is what we're chasing.
Yeah.
So for as long as we won't live up to that, like, we'll be chasing that forever.
True.
She'll never live up to that perfect example.
So
And you won't
true.
either.
Yeah.
You're not the
true, right.
perfect daughter.
Right. You also say create a relationship big enough for both of you to grow and change.
Yes.
And boy, that's true, because we're always still evolving.
Absolutely.
All of us are.
Yes, we cannot freeze each other in time. Like, maybe she was a little mean when you were young, but maybe now that life circumstances is different, maybe she is a little lighter. Embrace that. Don't always hold her to what she was,
And then treat her like you treat a friend. And that's so
Absolutely.
true. And I think that's also a great sentence for you to treat yourself like that. Because I think of
Absolutely.
how I pick up my friends and talk to them, but then my inner voice in myself is sometimes horrible. And I think, like, I would never tell my friends this stuff. That
Never.
I need myself right now to tell myself to treat myself better.
Yes,
and nicer
we're so
and
graceful.
kinder.
We're so graceful to others.
Right, are we? Right. This was so empowering and
Thank
wonderful. And you have a great organization. Tell us real quick about it and how
Yes.
you can, because you can work with people private
Absolutely.
and then
Yes.
eventually mend relationships.
Yeah, so Mended Relationships is our for-profit side of things where we do private coaching for mothers and daughters. But the private coaching that women come and do with us, we take a portion of those proceeds and we invest it into the Mended Inc. Foundation, which is the nonprofit side of things, where we offer this same coaching to mothers and daughters who can't pay out of their own pocket. And then we also do empowerment sessions for high school teens, you know, just helping them to, you know,
that's nice.
yeah, doing some primary prevention
needed.
before the break is there. And then we offer all kinds of initiatives and events throughout the year, like Motherless Day, which is how we got our start. That was the first thing we ever did. And we'll be doing that again this Mother's Day, where we're just holding space for women who this day is hard for. Because
Yeah.
it's hard for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. In a perfect world.
I think
it's-
we were just talking about that too. I think the tone of your voice when you talk to, if you talk
Yep.
in the
Yes.
same tone to
Yes.
your mother or she talks to you as you do your friends.
I love that. It's attunement.
So true.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And tell each other all the time. We always tell each other, I love you, I
Yeah,
love you
never.
more. I mean, we
Absolutely.
always.
Yeah, you need the
You never
affection.
hang up the
Yeah.
phone.
Absolutely.
Unless you say
You
that.
need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I love you both.
Love you.
And this
love
is-
you.
this
It's
is
amazing
special.
watching the
I
two
love
of
it.
you. I love seeing this relationship. It's amazing.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yes.
And
Thank
so
you for
happy
having me.
with yours too.
Thank
and
you
what a
so
role
much.
model you're to your
you.
kids.
You're doing
Thank
a great
you.
What a blessing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us on this special Mother's Day edition for
Yes.
Fox 8 Extra. And we will see you next week. Have a great week.
See you later.